There's a lot going on in rheumatology research that's very exciting. On the therapeutic side, you have a lot of interesting development of new drugs that are targeted in different diseases. For 25 years, we've had this in rheumatoid arthritis. It's spread to psoriatic arthritis. Now we're developing similar types of drugs for Sjogren's disease, for scleroderma, for lupus. And I think we're just on the verge of really further growth in these other diseases. But aside from treatments like monoclonal antibodies, we also have cell therapy, which is incredibly exciting. So several years ago, there was the publication of the CAR T treatment trials in lupus that were really remarkable, treating people who are end-stage, untreatable lupus with CAR T therapy, really almost cured them. It seems to have cured them. And now there's the advent of many CAR T therapy companies. I was told this morning over 30 in lupus. Trials are going on in lupus and in other diseases, and this is incredibly exciting.
So there are lots of things going on that are exciting in rheumatology research in all the disease areas, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, osteoarthritis. I think one thing I would focus on in terms of exciting areas is really the cross-cutting methods that are being used by researchers. So in terms of observational data, we're living in a time where there's unprecedented access to electronic health record data, registries, and those sorts of things. And so investigators have an opportunity to look into those data and answer some really important questions in terms of clinical care and epidemiology, and using really rigorous methods. And then for clinical trials, I am excited by the different new methods that are available in terms of creative designs for clinical trials that help us to answer important clinical questions.
We have identified the genetic basis of metabolic dysfunction in patients with SLE. We discovered the phenomenon of mitochondrial hyperpolarization and activation of the mechanistic target of rapamycin, which is a key checkpoint of lineage development in the immune system. We developed animal models that indicate that these metabolic checkpoints are relevant for disease pathogenesis, and we use certain biomarkers of metabolic dysfunction, such as glutathione depletion and mTOR activation, as targets to design intervention in clinical trials.
I think what's really exciting is the convergence of the clinical aspects of care with things like large administrative data sets and machine learning and AI, and the technologies we have to study cells and molecules at a really unprecedented level through spatial omics, genomics, transcriptomics, etc. And the technology of the companies that are developing new treatments. And so the convergence of those three things is really helping us to understand our diseases at the patient level, at the cellular and molecular level, and to develop new treatments for these diseases, that some of which have not had good treatments for decades. So it's really exciting.
In the overall world of scientific publishing, I mean, the globe has become so tiny. You know, we see work that comes out yesterday in China on my desktop. So it's something that we're all so interconnected in science, and that's the way it should be. I have collaborations with people in all over the world as a scientist, but I think as someone who reads the literature, I'm able to see what's going on in all spheres. And I think that we have to just keep making sure that those avenues of communication are kept open between scientists around the globe. That's the way we're going to advance science.
So in terms of growth and innovation in scientific publishing, I think we have a lot of opportunity in terms of creative ways to disseminate our research outside just the article itself. So that's important. And I think we have a great process for publishing scientific articles. What do those articles look like? How do we communicate effectively to scientific readers? But I think we want to explore how do we get those messages out to beyond the scientific community in addition to that. So how do we get our messages out to clinicians who are treating patients with rheumatic diseases? How do we get our messages out to patients when that is appropriate? So that's, I think, one thing our editorial team is thinking about is, along with the ACR staff, is how can we do that? What are some creative ways we can get our findings of the great articles that we publish out to a broader audience?
Could we have editions that would address investigators and researchers in rheumatology in other countries where our journal may not be as available to them because of language barriers? So I think there's a lot of opportunity to think about global expansion, and as we as a field become more and more global, which is happening in every field really, to expand to different markets, to bring the best of science and rheumatology to people all over the world.